I'll say this, right? I'm a nobody. I'm a nobody. But it's like I've been seeing so many people asking Asian creators to speak up about the whole uh riots in LA and all these deportation things. This is something that a lot of people don't understand. Asian people, we support the country. We support the betterment of the country. We support that. So what is there to say? What is there to say? We support the deportations of illegals. It is honestly tiring because here's the thing: we want the country to be better. We want the country to be better. We want the country to if you did it legally, if you stand in line, if you paid the price, right? You paid the money and all that. You did all the process, the paperwork, all the stuff, which usually most Asian people do. Why would we care about someone jumping in line, crossing the border, and all this stuff? Why should we, you know, be happy about that? We're not really. This is the thing where we're not really dependent. Asian people aren't really dependent on uh you know migrant labor, right? Not like other people. We're not really dependent on migrant labor. So we're not gonna cry that the U.S. is pretty much backing what they promised. The U.S. promised, or this presidency promised, that they would deport illegal immigrants. They're doing that. Why are you crying? Why are you crying about it? This is the thing where, you see it like these immigrants are waving the flags of other countries, burning down the flag of the U.S., and then you think Asian people want to support that? No, they want to stay away from that. They don't want to be grouped in with these people. That's the thing. Asian people want to, focus on themselves and their community and their country. They don't want to be grouped in with these people. So really, stop asking Asian influencers to speak up about it, because you won't like what they say. You won't like what they say. So really, it's better off that they do the content that they're doing instead of, say things you don't like. Because here's the thing: Asian people don't want to focus on the negativity and say what they're really thinking. Deport, right? Deport illegal immigrants. They are fine with it.
I don't have a huge following, but I still feel a responsibility to say something. I lived in LA for 4 years now, and what's happening with the ICE raids, the fear, the silence, especially from those within the Asian American community, has been really weighing heavily on my heart. I grew up in Queens, New York, around large Latino and Hispanic communities, and I've witnessed firsthand how deeply connected our communities are. A lot of Asian-owned businesses often rely on the labor of undocumented workers, often quietly, without any acknowledgement. And now, when the same people are being targeted, the silence is loud. It's painful. We come from immigrant families. We know what fear looks like, and we know what sacrifice looks like. And yet so many of us turn a blind eye when others are being targeted for the very reasons we're here. To those who are affected, I don't know what to say. I am truly sorry. You deserve to feel safe and you deserve to be seen. And to influencers, this moment calls for more than just posts about hidden gems in LA and food spots. If we love the city and its people, we need to show up for them too. If you have the privilege to post about where to shop in LA, then you have the power to say this isn't right. That is not political, that is just being human. I am not trying to call people out just to create noise. I am saying this because I care. This isn't about blame, it's about showing up. Speaking up doesn't require a perfect statement. It's honestly just about heart and showing compassion. And if you have a platform, even a small one like mine, it does matter. Be the voice for those who can't.
Hey y'all, we are going to discuss today on why the Asians have been, silent on anti-blackness, and of course, it is some Asians are finally admitting that they are wrong for abandoning black communities, especially in moments of struggle, and even as we just watched from our prelude. Now, from apology videos to regret-filled reactions. TikTok is starting to sound like a conventional, and the pain behind it is real. But where does this regret come from, and why now? And can that regret turn into real solidarity? And we're gonna unpack this one right here. Back in the 60s and the 70s, Asian American activists, stood shoulder to shoulder with Black Power movements, and they understood that liberation was connected. Now that if black people rose, everyone rose. But somewhere along the line, that unity cracked. And thanks to the model minority myth, Asian Americans were used as a wage by the white America. And they were told, look at you, hardworking, successful. You're not like them, quote unquote. Now, it was a setup, a strategic divide that encouraged assimilation at the expense of black struggle. And many took the bait, chasing proximity to whiteness, staying silent when black communities faced injustice. So, guys, it is about this that you're going to watch all those clips that I've sampled together, courtesy of the creators. And then, of course, we're going to make up our mind. And as we usually do it here, guys, I'm going to circle back at the end of this particular show with my thoughts, comments over the same. But along the line to drop us your comments on what exactly you think. See you at the end of it.
Now, I'm seeing this question pop up a lot. Why is the Asian community so quiet on the ICE raid topic? Now, I'm not speaking for all Asian people, but this is just my point of view. My family's from Laos. My parents spent years in refugee camps before being able to come here legally. So a lot of us from a very young age was taught accountability. You know, we were getting lectures after lectures after lectures on doing the right thing. Getting our ass beat for doing wrong things. So there are a lot of Asian people that are for deportations of, illegals. And not everybody, okay? Not all Asian people are for it, but I see most of us are. And we understand why you want to come here illegally and skip the process. People just want to live good lives, do better for themselves. But there is a right way of doing things. So if you do come here illegally and get caught, you need to take accountability for your actions. That's why a lot of times if you see an Asian person get deported, we don't make a big fuss about it because, they got to take accountability for their actions. And they know that. We don't have hate towards law enforcement because, they're just doing their part. They're just doing their jobs because they didn't do their part. And we do feel terrible about, or at least I do feel terrible about, families being ripped apart. But, they know the risk involved and they were willing to take that risk. Again, you got to take accountability. And a lot of people refer Asians as, model immigrants because, we are here to better ourselves, get an education, respect law and order. We just don't want any trouble. Like, we want peaceful lives. And so if we do get in trouble for something that we did, then we own up to it. That's it. So my heart does go out to the families of the deported. Hopefully they can find their way back, hopefully legal, so that they may, live peaceful lives. I wish y'all the best.
Why are so many Asian Americans so silent right now? That's because they didn't vote. Yes, they didn't vote because they didn't like Kamala from their internal misogyny or internal racism and felt indifferent enough about the orange man so that they thought that a no vote was going to the orange man. So the reason why they're not upset right now is because they voted for this. That's why. And that's not me excusing their behavior. I am a disabled person. I was advocating for Kamala before the election, so I had the chance to talk to a lot of my friends. They're not my friends anymore, but people in my life about how this election was going to affect me and people like me. And if they cared about me, why they should vote for Kamala. And they still didn't care. They couldn't care less because at the end of the day, it was all about taxes. Yeah, their tax break. The problem is Asians that have a level of wealth feel this closeness to white people because white people were the only ones that had that level of wealth for so long that they feel like they're getting a chance to be part of the white club, but they're not. And if I could give an insight into maybe why Asians are like this, it's because a lot of our parents and like even my generation as a millennial, we have seen our mother countries very impoverished. Like for me, I'm Korean, so I know South Korea's history. Like South Korea was fully bankrupt in the 80s and saw their first economic boom in the 2000s. It hasn't been that long, and they're in like the top 20 GDP in the world now. That level of wealth growth, normal citizens see that and think, oh my God, if I'm just smart enough and if I invest correctly, I can also get there. And if you look at South Korea, it's an oligarchy. That country is ran by like 3 families, and the main one is the Samsung family. And they have so many scandals. They have done some bad stuff, and the country just lets them get away with it. And if you look at the election turnout, it shows that South Koreans are starting to wake up to the state of like, oh, we're an oligarchy. But Korean Americans, look at the past of Korea, see that you can still succeed, feel like there's a privilege of being in America, utilize the model minority method, and then try to enter the 1%. They think that they could break into the 1%. Wake up. You're not. You're not white enough. You will never be white enough. They will never accept you.
I can only speak to Koreans of the diaspora because Asian is not a monolith. There are 4.8 billion Asian people in the world. There are 48 recognized Asian countries, so I can only talk to my people. Now, I understand why so many Koreans in the US specifically are silent, because there has been so much ancestral and intergenerational trauma that has made you forget. It's called memoricide as a result of US imperialism and colonization that spans centuries. When your grandparents, your parents, and possibly even yourself immigrated to this country, as a form of protection, you assimilate to whiteness because it affords you spaces of privilege and power. But what that actually does is a spiritual disconnection to your ancestors, your culture, and ultimately yourself. And because of the model minority myth, we are then used as tools of supremacy against our Black brothers and sisters. Can I just say that, like, you'll get far when you assimilate to whiteness. Like, you will be accepted into predominantly white institutions, you'll get far with capitalism, you'll have a nice cushy lifestyle, but you will never be accepted by whiteness. Not only do, like, we physically cannot, like, look at our phenotype, but you will never be accepted by them. And why would you want to? And I say this with so much love and compassion because I know our shared history. It's so painful and layered. And some of our ancestors chose to be freedom fighters while others chose to align themselves with occupation and whiteness and colonialism. Ultimately, this is all tied to self-worth because we've forgotten through time where we came from, who we really are, the richness of our culture. Something that my friend Tamsin Lee, who's also Korean, said to me 5 years ago is that we are from the land of the motherfucking tigers. Start acting accordingly.
Where the fuck are all the Asians? The thousands of Asians in LA either wanting to be an influencer in TikTok or are influencers on TikTok that have hundreds or tens of thousands or millions of followers. Like, you can't put down your fucking matcha for like literally 2 seconds and speak out about what's happening right now. I go on fucking TikTok, it's the same 4 like wonderful activist Asians on here. But then everybody else just still, regularly scheduled program, my outfit of the day, going to another fucking Korean barbecue restaurant. Like, the restaurant you're at is built on immigrants. This entire city is built on immigrants. Like, you went to fucking UC Irvine, you got your fucking marketing degree. I'm sure you took 1 humanities class, honey. Like, I promise you, if you just don't post 1 TikTok dance and you take 30 seconds to speak on children getting ripped away from an elementary school graduation, people being locked in the basements of federal buildings without food or water, the National Guard being deployed on your city. Like, I know that, like, shame doesn't work on you. Like, nothing works on you because you've had to create this shell. But, like, your $600 post that you're making for tummy tea is not going to save you here. You're scared of, like, your brand getting tainted, or, like, you won't be able to get brand deals. Like, with the rate that information suppression is going, like, you won't have TikTok to fucking sell your fucking boba flavored protein powder on here. Like, you won't have the time. You won't have the platform to do so. Like, your parents or your grandparents came here for a better life, and then now that you have a better life, you've already fucking forgotten the context as to which you fucking exist in this realm. Like, you don't have to be a civil rights expert or an econ expert or a fucking, like, lawyer to understand that what is happening needs to be stood up against. Like, you are the people that are populating the Capitol right now. Like, you will be next. Like, with black folk, they weaponize the police. With brown folk, they weaponize immigration. With Asian folk, they weaponize legislation. So the clock is ticking, sweetie. The clock is TikTok in a way. I don't give a fuck if you feel awkward about speaking something. Or I don't give a fuck if you're like, I'm sorry, I've never spoken about this before, or whatever. It's not too late. It's not too late. I promise to you, it's not too late to listen to that tiny voice in the back of your head. I've been on this fucking app for 2.5, almost 3 months. That's all. But it's not that fucking hard. You open the app and you do the thing. You don't have to fucking edit it. You can just say it fucking non sequitur and just speak from your fucking tiny, shriveled, but beating heart. Please. I just fucking beg you.
This is an urgent message for all Asian Americans. I need you guys to stop what this doing. This is going to be a long one, but I need you guys to pay attention. As you can probably see already, the entire country is slowly going into turmoil and chaos. And if you have been paying close enough attention, you will also come to the realization that people are choosing sides. More specifically, Black, brown, and indigenous people are siding with each other. However, you also may come to the realization that you don't see yourself being included into this conversation or the scenario. I recently saw this video by an Asian man talking about how he feels excluded from the scenario and the conversations held by Black, brown, and indigenous people. And even though I understand his frustration, I understand why my people do not feel the need to include Asian people. And that's because many Black Americans believe that Asian Americans has benefited off the model minority myth and whiteness. That and the heavily engraved anti-Blackness and obsession over whiteness in the Asian community, not to mention the poor performance during the election. And despite my best efforts to show them and you that Asian Americans are actually the second largest race to vote for the Democratic Party, it wasn't enough. And for most of us, we understand the reasoning. It's because the older generation of the Asian community did not receive an education here in the United States to understand the graphic details of how important this actually is. When in fact, it was their kids who received an education in the first place, which is why they tend to lean more left. It's because they're aware of history and have an education in the United States. But despite statistics and information, this doesn't automatically disprove everything. Even in the younger generation, there's still enough anti-Blackness and obsession over whiteness. Asian community, you really need to get your stuff figured out as soon as possible. In fact, I truly believe that the Asian community is more likely to destroy themselves before the Triple K, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and any other racist white person even have the chance to do so. What Black people and other people of color, besides Asian people of course, do not understand is that the Asian community within itself doesn't really like each other either. Anti-Blackness is only one of the issues the Asian community has, when a lot of people in the Asian community are actually very racist and hateful towards each other. I'm not a rookie when it comes to history and knowledge. I'm very well educated on history. Chinese and Korean people do not like Japanese people because of the millions that they killed in their countries. It left generational trauma for years to come, and Japanese people don't really like Chinese or Koreans either. And Koreans, I'm using this very loosely because I'm not entirely sure if it's changed, but they don't really like Southeast Asian people either. Vietnamese people do not like Chinese people because of the 1,000 years of colonization. Chinese people don't really like Vietnamese people either, so go figure. Vietnamese and Cambodians don't really like each other because about 50, 60 years ago, they were duking it out with one another, and now they're having an infinite conversation of who was right and who was wrong. Mongolians don't really like Chinese people don't really like Mongolians, and Kazakhs don't like Mongolians either. Taiwanese, mostly in the younger generation, don't really want to deal with China or Chinese people. And a lot of Chinese people still feel that Taiwanese people are Chinese, and that pisses Taiwanese people off. So not only, not all, in general, Asian communities have intense anti-Blackness within their communities, but they're also very hateful towards one another because their beauty standards, their culture, their history all clashes with one another. So when you have the model minority myth that was created to pit Asians against Black people because they understood that during the civil rights movement, if Black and Asian people united, it will cause a major problem for the people in power and for white supremacy. So when you convince them to become the model minority, you might as well go a step further and convince them to be obsessed over whiteness, something they would never get. They will feed tits and taps of bits of white acceptance to East Asians, but never to Southeast Asians, which causes a further divide between East Asians and Southeast Asian people. And South Asian, because Indians and Lebanese, etc. are also Asian. So if you put the entire Asian community in this massive, unfortunate predicament, they will undoubtedly not only hate each other, but hate Black people. So it prevents Asian Americans from having a solidarity with Black and brown people. But they will destroy themselves little by little while simultaneously fighting for white validation they will never receive. In conclusion, Asian people need to figure out where they stand within these next 4 years, because I promise you, if you do not figure it out soon, your own demise will follow you. Your own demise will eventually keep up to you. I am trying to help y'all because I don't see anybody else that isn't Asian telling you this. To the Asian American community, if you do not figure this out before the white supremacy catches up to you, you will eventually destroy yourself. I have been calling this, I have been saying this for 4 years now. Remember that college DI situation several months back and how the Asian statistic was drastically dropping compared to the black, which looks like it barely moved? It is not because black people are less smart and they're just giving us a pass. People suddenly realized that Asian people in general being smart was nothing but a stereotype. Go figure, I've been known this. A lot of these DEIs happen to be Asian people and they were eventually removed. In some races, Asian people was like, what? Black people are actually smart? Oh, duh. And I also recall that Washington Post back in 2020, 2021, calling East Asians specifically white, completely disregarding Southeast Asians and South Asians to piss off. Once again, further proof that they're trying to divide the Asian community entirely. Also in 2020 and 2021, our white leaders, including Orange Man, was sparking anti-Asian sentiment, causing anti-Asian hate crimes all over the country. And now here we are again in 2024, and this part I'm stumped on because Asian Americans are second to Latinos when it comes to being an immense part of immigration. And a lot of you are silent, which blows my mind. Silence isn't going to save you. Not to mention, the government recently passed a bill to fund $1.2 billion worth of anti-Chinese propaganda. Where do you think that puts you? So not all of you are silent, but a lot of you are also included into this immigration policy. I am sure there's a lot of you who has chosen solidarity with black and brown people, but there's also a lot of you who is too afraid to do so. It could be for multiple things: your sacrifice over whiteness, or maybe your parents, or maybe you're just secretly racist. But regardless, time is running out. Asian people do not have a lot of time. Black people are already joining together and they are convinced they will make it out on top by the end of this. And so far, they are siding with Latinos and indigenous people. And as much as I want Asian people to join us, I have to take a step back and realize there is a lot of them who won't even consider that option. But we don't know who that is. I know there are millions of them who will side with us, but I also know there are other millions of Asian people who wouldn't dare to do so. I feel like I needed to make this video because time is really running out for you guys, and I'm trying to do y'all a favor. I'm trying to encourage y'all. I'm trying to hope you guys are waking up to see it for what it actually is, but time is of the essence. This country never cared about you. You was nothing but a pawn, and you was nothing but a tool. Please, open your eyes. Good luck.
Really dependent. Asian people are really dependent on, migrant labor, right?
So I've been seeing people like stitch this video. This video has been going viral. I've seen people stitch this video. And I don't know why y'all did not clock this part. I finally seen the entirety of this video. And I don't understand why y'all didn't clock this man when he said this. Specifically talking about Asian people don't depend on migrant work, which is just heavily not true, right? I lived in California, for example. I lived in California for 3 years. I lived in Huntington Beach, California, okay? So in between there is Santa Ana, Irvine, Costa Mesa, and a place called Garden Grove. Garden Grove ain't nothing but a Chinatown. It's a big Chinatown, bigger Chinatown. That's what it is. Okay, you go in there, you see a lot of migrants. And you also see Hispanic migrants in there working. Okay, that was the biggest lie he could have ever told on the internet. Trying to exclude Asians as if they also are not a part of this American system of using migrants. They're cheaper labor. And they work hard as hell. Okay? The other lie that he told is that, and this is a lie that's been told for years. Y'all know that majority of the illegal immigrants that come over in this country come over due to student visas and work visas. This has already been researched. You can look this shit up. All right? People overstay in their visas. That's it. Okay? A lot of people do not jump that damn fence. Okay? And so I don't understand why people just get on here and start lying.
Some people say that Chinese people are toxic because we tend to be silent but giving. But have you ever wondered why we act this way, even after thousands of years of social evolution? So today, let me share a secret with you that no one ever told you before. Unlike many Western cultures, China has always been an agricultural civilization. Our ancestors traced the moon and stars to predict the seasons so our crops could feed millions across centuries. Now, what does that have to do with the silence? Okay, so here's the funny thing. Just imagine, okay? Imagine you're a farm landowner and you don't have the luxury of confronting every conflict anymore. Why? Because you never know who you might offend. They might smile at you during the day and burn your field at night. So what do? You learn to avoid escalation. You learn to express care through action and not confrontation. If somebody cares, they'll notice, and they'll reflect, and they will change. Not because you told them, but because they understand. Because over here, conflicts aren't resolved. They are simply prevented. Of course, we're not afraid of crops being burned anymore, but after thousands of years, we have refined this instinct. Our communication has settled into a kind of balance and with no internal pressure to shift it. Why would we? But maybe that's where you come in. If you have a different way, bring it. Show us. We're listening. Let's evolve into something new together. And if you like this, don't forget to follow.
Welcome back again, Tribe. I told you that at the end of this particular show, I would circle back, and here I am. So, the apologies came. Some whispered through the tears. Some typed beneath a viral video. And some shared in crowded comments. In our section where strangers became mirrors. Asian Americans are looking back. And at the silence and the distance, the complicity. And realizing that somewhere along the way, they chose safety over solidarity. But not all, but enough to feel the weight. Regret, though, this is only the first crack in a wall that has been built over decades. Because regret doesn't rebuild trust. Regret doesn't erase history. And regret on its own doesn't protect the next black child stopped by a cop. Or the next black business burned by indifference. Now, if this moment is going to matter, it has to go beyond apologies. So it has to become action, confrontation, risk. It has to be showing up, not just when your community bleeds rather, but when someone else is still healing. Because this ain't about being allies when it's convenient. It's about remembering that silence is never neutral. And neither is regret unless it leads to something more. So the question isn't just, do you feel sorry? It's what are you willing to do with that sorrow? I go by Sherlock again in this particular platform. If you're joining us for the first time, how about that particular thumbs up, a like, and of course, comment on the comment section. All those three will put a very big smile on my face. See you in the next one.